All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to the first meeting of 2022 for the DAS. This is our January Delaware Astronomical Society meeting. First item on the agenda, do we have any new members who'd like to introduce yourselves? I don't see anybody actually that's new. All right, guess not.
And guests as well.
Any guests? Yeah. Nope. All right, so one thing I'd like to announce that's very exciting is we have two new board members who have volunteered to take on new roles. So Marianne Webb has offered to be our librarian, and she's actually got an interesting plan for how to bring the DS library into the 21st century in 2022. It's going to be very exciting.
And
She's
Rob,
got a whole bunch of ideas.
Also worth taking a moment. Let's acknowledge, the librarians that she's replacing.
Yep, they have done a fantastic job over the last few years. So yeah. Very cool. The second item is we got a board member at large, Sydney Ocampo. Sydney has been being our elections chair for the last several years and done a smash up job of that. And he's been doing surveys of our club members for the last several years. And that really is what a board member at large is supposed to do. They're supposed to get the pulse of the club and let us know what people are thinking. And Sydney's been volunteering as well, helping out with our Zoom sessions, and he's been very active. So I think he's going to be an excellent board member at large. So thank you, Sydney, for stepping up to the plate.
Thank you for having me. I'm honored. Thanks. Appreciate it.
And we should also recognize Tom Harding. He did an excellent job in that position, and we will miss him greatly. Next item on the agenda is Sydney. We should announce the election. So we'll have an election coming up later this year in May. And Sydney is going to be presiding over that election. And we'll have more details to come later on. Sydney, you want to say anything?
Yeah, actually, this coming election is actually for president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. We usually have this every couple of years, and I will send out once we get the Survey Monkey going. I'll send out the invitation for nominations for this particular event, and we'll take it from there. And later on, after that, I'm gonna send out also the voting, the ballots. But I'll give more details when I have all of it by next meeting. And if you are thinking of running for president, vice president, treasurer, or secretary, think about it. And once I send out the nomination forms or surveys, just feel free to respond or put the name of the nominee you'd like to put in there. We'll get it soon, maybe hopefully by next week. Thank you very much, Rob. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right. Another announcement is that we did have a nice long discussion about a number of items. One of them was staying remote for the next couple of weeks. So due to the large number of COVID cases, we decided it'd be best a couple weeks ago to go remote. We'd like to stay remote for the next few weeks until these cases subside a little bit. So we won't have any workshops at Mount Cuba for the time being. Although, if somebody has a project they want to work on or something they're interested in getting help with, Dave has offered to go over there and open things up for a small group of people who is excited or interested to work on something. So, there's no prohibition on DAS members getting together if you want to work on something. We're just not going to have the big DAS meetings or big astronomy workshops to help save the hospitals and try to reduce the COVID cases.
Yep, Mount Cuba is not closed, but we're going to stay on Zoom for a bit.
Yep. And that's all I have on my agenda. Bill, did you have any announcements for the AP SIG?
Just that the next meeting comes up on February 12th, and it's the 20th anniversary of the Astrophotography Special Interest Group.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Very exciting. All right, and Marianne Webb, I don't know if she's on right now. No, I don't think so. Do we have any announcements for the book club? No?
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, there you are.
Okay, very good. Yes, sorry about that. January 27th is our next meeting, and we are delighted because we will be reading The Human Cosmos by Jo Marchant, who is a British science journalist, and she will be joining us from England. And Kathy Kuhn selected the book. We're listening to an audiobook version, and you can actually hear Jo read the book aloud. And it's a wonderful book. In February, bear with me just 1 minute.
Robert looks like he needs a shave.
In February, we will be reading How the Hippies Saved Physics, Science, Counterculture, and the Quantum Revival by David Kaiser. And David Kaiser will also be joining us. In March, we will be reading What Stars Are Made Of, The Life of Cecilia Payne-Koposchkin by Donovan Moore. And with the help of Jim Kirshen, Donovan Moore, the author, will be joining us, as well as Cecilia Koposchkin's granddaughter, who is a professor at Dartmouth. And Donovan will actually be giving a presentation. And Cecilia will be then speaking to us after Donovan's presentation. In April, to mark the 50th anniversary of the Apollo missions, Matt Grabowski picked The Apollo Murders by Chris Hadfield. And we've extended an invitation to Chris to join us. However, his honorarium is thousands of dollars, so I'm not certain whether or not he will agree to join us or not. And in May, a fabulous book called Seeing in the Dark, How Amateur Astronomers Are Discovering the Wonder of the Universe by Timothy Ferris. He will be joining us. I think the gentlemen and ladies in the club who are hands-on telescope builders and mirror grinders, they will enjoy the Timothy Ferris book. And then in June, we have the autobiography of John Brashear, and Bart Freed from the Antique Telescope Society will be joining us. And he has been working over the past 35 years on a biography of Brashear. So he is truly considered the leading expert on the life and the work of John Brashear. And I think Greg Weaver could speak to this, and probably Dave. There's a Brashear at Mount Cuba. Is anybody else familiar with the details of the Brashear at Mount Cuba?
It's the DuPont scope on a Brashear mount
There you go.
with an
And Brashear was from Pennsylvania and responsible for, some of the best scientific equipment during the 19th century. So that would be a good meeting. We're still open for a suggestion for July, and we're hoping that a new member of our group, I think it's Dr. Werkman, will give us a title, and maybe Scott Jackson will be giving us a title. August, we're going to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the death of William Herschel. And Ling King, who is a member of the DAS, who does, she reenacts and gives impressions of Caroline Herschel, William Herschel's sister, will be leading that meeting. And then we have a suggestion by Jim Barclay, About Time, A History of Civilization in 12 Clocks by David Rooney. And we're waiting to hear back from Dave whether or not he'll be joining us. And that is an extremely well-reviewed book. And very excited choice by Chris Trunk, who's with the Chester County group, Spacesuit, Fashioning Apollo by Nicholas de Moncho will be our October read. And Nicholas is the chair of the architecture department at MIT. And he wrote a book about how the spacesuit was fashioned. And it turns out that a Delaware company was largely responsible for the creation of the Apollo spacesuits. And women who worked at Playtex, the brassiere and girdle manufacturer, evidently were called to do the seamstressing for these spacesuits. And so we're really looking forward to that. And I've invited a personal friend who lived in England and was a seamstress for the Doctor Who production. And so we thought she would enjoy exchanging ideas with Professor Moncho. And then November and December are still open for the book club. But I think right now we have a very exciting rota, and each member of the club suggests the book and then leads the meeting so that we get full participation. And we've had great success inviting the authors who've been very gracious and very willing from all over the world, from Australia, England, Canada, all over the United States to join us. So we welcome all the members of the DAS to participate. Guests are always welcome. Members of other astronomical societies are always welcome. We've extended the invitation to even the Astronomical League and their library.
Right,
Does anyone have any questions about the book club?
Awesome.
Okay.
Oh,
Thank
we
you.
got a question from, looks like Bill.
Are all those meetings listed out somewhere?
I've added each of those meetings to the delastro.org calendar. So all
Okay.
you have to do, we meet on the last Thursday of the month at 7:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. With the exception of this month, we are meeting at 5 p.m. in order to accommodate Jo Marchant because she's in England. She wants to get to bed early. She's not hanging out looking at the stars. She's got a family and has to get up early. So she's and she'll only probably be with us for half an hour. Kathy Coons has sent out, she'll be leading the meeting. Kathy Coons has sent out a request that all of the participants send their questions in advance. So Jo has the time to reflect on responses and make good use of her time since it'll be late in the day. I don't think she thinks that would be the best way of handling our request to join us and the limited time that she'll be spending with us.
Thank you very
Hey,
much,
Rob, do
Mary.
we have a part of the website for the book club?
I added that.
Rob just added it yesterday. Great
Yep.
job, Rob. And I apologize. I haven't been able to get to it and really work with it, but I will be adding the full calendar, our prior reads. I'd like to add links to the website. And I was thinking we may be able to get some patronage out of this from Amazon.com or some of the authors of the books. If we have links directly to the publisher pages and directly to Amazon. So I don't know if we can put any kind of ads. I think now there's an opportunity where you can actually draw income off of these links if they're placed correctly and the relationships are created. So it may be additional income for the society.
Interesting. Yeah, we can check that out. We can investigate that. But thank you
Okay.
very much, Mary. And
Thank you.
thank you for offering to be our librarian now as well.
Yes, I'm honored and looking forward to it.
Wonderful. All right, so that's all I actually have on my agenda. Was there any other announcements? All right, Jeff, it's all yours.
All right. So as I mentioned, for anyone that came in a little bit later, our scheduled speaker had a work emergency and had to drop out last minute. So we are going to pivot and do a series of member mini talks. Couple of protocols here. Normally, this meeting is and has been recorded. And the intention is that the video will get posted onto the club's YouTube channel. Normally, I ask the speaker if they're okay with that, but because we're going to have multiple people speaking, I'm just going to make the blanket statement that by you giving a presentation or a talk tonight, you are giving de facto consent for your video to be included up on the web, on the YouTube.
Yeah.
Also with that, just to keep things cool, Rob, would you go ahead and mute everybody so we can keep it good audio quality?
Just a second. I need to bring that up. Hold on. Sorry.
And did you allow screen sharing, Rob?
I will do that in a second.
Okay. All right, and then obviously as each speaker goes up, they can unmute themselves. And first up, Rob. So first up is going to be Greg Lee. And maybe Rob, do you have a photo or two that you could flash up while Greg is talking?
A photo of
Bob. Sorry.
Oh, yes. Just give me 1 second and I'll find that. It was in my email. I sent them.
If everyone has been watching the DAS news site, you've already seen that we lost a longtime member last Saturday night, Bob Menser. He was treasurer for years and years and years. Pardon me here, he was such a good friend. It's difficult. There's a lot of reminiscences that have been given on the website, on the DAS news group, and you can read a lot of those. Bob was just such a great individual. His sense of humor was always there, dry wit, always had a pun, and he could throw those out in the middle of a meeting or just a common conversation as well. He was also a board member of the observatory itself, Mount Cuba Astronomical Observatory. He headed up the tree removal program that we did several years back. He and Jim Cower surveyed the property line to tie down those corner points for us. And as an aside, Jim Cower, whose picture is just right there, turned 95 yesterday. So another milestone. Jim Cower is one of the charter members of DAS. So we're going to miss Bob.
And still active with the club.
Yes.
Yeah. He's
still, when we have physical meetings, he is right there at the physical meetings. So we're going to miss Bob, good friend.
Thank you very much, Greg. Fred, did you want to add something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it might be worthwhile to mention, because I'd forgotten all about it until I read about it again, about Bob's contribution to the Soprano trial, and his math presentation that as witness that he someone else could explain it. Bob told me about it years ago, and I was fascinated by it, but I cannot, for the life of me, explain what he did.
Yeah, back during the Capano trial, there was a lot in the news about the cooler that supposedly the body was in, and someone on the boat shot a hole in the cooler trying to get it to sink. During the course of one of our meetings over at Buckley's after our Tuesday get-togethers, the conversation went on about that, and Bob did a little math with his physics background, and it would float anyway. And as it turns out, the contacts were made with the attorneys, and they actually brought Bob in as an expert witness to show that even with a shotgun hole in that cooler, it would not sink. So another little interesting trivia piece from Bob's life. I have a copy here of Mercury Magazine, which is the journal of the Astronomical Society of the Pacific. He wrote an article about the astronomy of Mason and Dixon. I wish I had a real copy of this. This is just a photocopy, but a multi-page article. It was a hobby of his to study the surveying techniques of Mason and Dixon, and how they used a zenith transit to get their positions to survey that line. And so Bob and I were out. We visited a few of the stones in the local area, and one of the star parties out in York County, we visited a few stones out there. So this publication in a national magazine was another one of his amazing things that he did. Back during the transit of Venus, we built a scale model of the Earth, Venus, Sun system that was like 300 yards long. And we cut out a big circle of the sun, and Bob set up the whole scale structure of it. And through a spotting scope, we could see we put on a stick out there from where the spotting scope is at Earth's position, where Venus's position would be. And you could see the silhouette of the planet on the plywood disk of the sun. And from different positions, slightly different positions on the Earth, you could see the shift in the position on the sun, which allows you to do the trigonometry and figure out the distance of the sun. And by there, knowing all the other distances of all the other planets, we knew the distances in ratios, but not in real mileage numbers until that measurement was finally made. So he just had all kinds of amazing little skills and interests and talents. He did a program once on sundials. He got interested in sundials. And so he put together a program on sundials and highlighted the one that we have at Mount Cuba there. But he showed all these different styles of sundials that could be put on a wall, or could be, the shadows would fall in different ways. And he built a 4-style combination sundial out of plywood and curved plastic that combined 4 different ways of measuring, 4 different sundials all in one. But I could go on.
Bob told me an interesting story about how much he respected his father's opinions that he learned when he was a very, very young boy. Because when he was 7 years old, they were living in Toledo, Ohio. And it was time of they heard on the radio that Pearl Harbor had been bombed. And he asked his father, he was very concerned about that. And he asked his father, are they going to bomb Toledo? And his father said, no, they won't. And he said they didn't. So he always respected his father's opinion from then on.
Nice. Well, again, thanks again, Greg. Thanks for those great
Anyway.
words. Just And to quantify something you had mentioned, yeah, Bob was a long time, not only DAS member, but board member. And I forget, I think he is one of the longest serving board members. McKibben, wasn't he the treasurer for like 25 years?
I think it was 30.
I just looked it up, actually. It was 20 years, and he was the second longest serving board member.
Yeah. So anyhow, again, thanks, Greg. Thanks, Fred. Thanks for everybody who had some great words to say about Bob. Again, we'll be truly
And
missed.
thanks to all those other people that added some reminiscences to the thread in the DAS.
Yeah. And hey, Greg, if you hang on to that article about Mason Dixon, maybe when we get back together again, we can get it scanned and digitized, and maybe find a good place for it.
We can put that on the website. There's several other technical papers just like it. Yep.
Cool. All right. Next up, and Bill, sorry for cutting you off earlier, but next up is Rob Lancaster. I had hinted at something a little bit cheeky in my email earlier today, that Rob, our very own Rob Lancaster, was featured in a recent major Hollywood movie. And with that, Rob, take it away.
All right. So basically, the other day, and this is very recent, it's about 4 days ago now, I think, I got a message from one of my friends and said, hey, you should take a look at what's up. You might recognize something in the opening sequence. And I was like, all right. And so I checked it out, and yeah, lo and behold, there it was. So I'm going to share my other screen real quick, and you guys can see what I saw.
Wait, Rob, when you said what's up, what did you mean?
Oh, sorry. Don't look up. I keep saying that. I'm sorry. You're right.
Don't look up.
Yes. You guys, no, you got the wrong screen. I'm sorry. One more second. This desktop. All right, you guys see this okay? Does that look good?
Yes, good.
Okay. All right. So this is one of the scenes from that movie. I have the movie Don't Look Up. It was from 2021. Here's a list of all the famous actors, at least the ones I recognized from the list, and all their different roles. Here's a picture of some of those actors and the little poster from the movie. The next thing I had was a little video sequence here, although I don't think I should play it in its entirety because, of course, copyright law, and this is going up on YouTube, so I probably shouldn't just press play. But in this opening sequence, it's basically in an observatory. And you've got Dibiaski, who's a graduate student, sitting here at her keyboard and taking images. Now, this was probably the first time I noticed it. But
hey, Rob, sorry, quick interjection. Do you want to give a 20-second summary of what the movie's about, just to give a little context?
It's not hugely important for this, but it's true. Basically, it's a movie about a comet that's pretty much guaranteed to hit the Earth, and the reaction to it. It's all about social media and how the world reacts to things like this. And so it's a commentary on our current social media age and how it affects us and our reactions. It's very much a parody. It's very much a comedy, but it's a tragic comedy because, it doesn't end well. But basically, this is the stuff that I was recognizing is in the software that she's looking at on her screen. And then she goes over after she takes her image and goes to this board over here. Just a second. And you can see she does this little thing where she's clicking on the screen and you see this comet appearing, and then she animates it. But again, note over here and over here. Sorry, there we go. So this is the screen in particular that I was looking at. And there's the sections that I wanted to highlight. And in this screen, it's on the left and on the right, these sections right here. So I grabbed a screenshot of K-stars here, and here's the image from the movie screen. And then next, I have here the guide module in K-stars. And this part is basically shown right in here or up here. And the drift graphic screen is right here, actually. Although it's interesting, they don't have any stuff on it. Like, why wouldn't they show that? I'm not sure. And then the other thing that I wanted to point out was the thing they use to highlight objects is very, very similar to the method we use to highlight objects in K-stars. So I was wondering if that image was real, was the next question. You know, if they took all these things from real things, could that image be a real image? Maybe without the comet, the field. So I took this little image here, I cropped it, and I fed it into the Stellar Solver plate solver that I wrote about in the Focus recently that I developed in 2020. It's based on astrometry.net. So I plate solved the image, and in fact, it solved within about 4 seconds. It is a real star field. I'm assuming that they took an astronomical image and just stuck it in the film. But it was interesting because the solved position that I got for that was actually visible from the location of the Subaru telescope where they claimed they took it. I took the coordinates of the observatory, put them into the program, and took the coordinates of the particular object in the sky, and the object would be visible above the horizon, but fairly low. And if you watch that opening sequence of the movie, the telescope pans down toward the horizon and she snaps the picture. So I thought that was pretty amazing that that part was semi-realistic. So here is the area of the sky that I found. This is the field size. This is the coordinates. Here's the pixel scale, and here's the field rotation. So totally reasonable based on what they claimed. Now, I won't say that everything in that movie was reasonable, like imaging with the lights on, for one, but this was pretty interesting that some real science got into the movie. Here is the field in K-stars, and here's the field in the image. So as you can see, it is a fairly good resemblance for the field. You can see a lot of objects in both things. So I would say that that is actually the location that was shown in the film. And that's it. Stop sharing.
Cool.
What
The
you
other
didn't
realistic
add,
part was
Rob,
that
is
the tube of the telescope was not sticking through the slit in the dome.
Yeah. Yep.
and what a lot of people might not know, Rob, is that you are a co-author of the K-STARS program.
Yes. So I'm one of the major contributing coders at this point. I started working on it in 2016 when I found out it existed, that it was a totally free astrophotography tool and that it handled all kinds of different equipment and stuff like that. And I thought it was a really good idea and a good project, giving beginners a full and complete astrophotography package, and more advanced people something that can do everything that a $600 program can do. And I wanted to help. So I actually am the one that ports it for a Mac. And so I worked really hard over that first year to get the code working on a Mac machine. And I've been supporting that ever since then. And I added a whole bunch of contributions to it, particularly as regards to plate solving. I actually developed a whole new plate solver based upon astrometry.net and the Sextractor program. And it's been a pretty good ride, I would say. And I think it's helped a lot of people. It's now used by hundreds to thousands of people around the world for their astronomical imaging. So very exciting. And now it's in a movie. But I'm
Cool.
sure that they just took it because, you know, it's open source and, you know, they found the images on the internet. So they just stuck it in there and they didn't have to cite anybody. So they didn't have to pay us. That's probably why. Any questions? No?
So I'm pulling up something here while. Yeah, and for anyone that's curious, the movie, again, is Don't Look Up, and it is available via Netflix.
Pretty funny movie, I will say. I enjoyed
Yeah.
it.
And don't leave us for Hollywood.
No. No.
It's funny, you know, anytime there is a movie and they show a computer screen, you know, you always wonder, like, even like if they'll show some video game, and obviously it's usually not a real video game, or they'll show some software, and you always wonder, like, I guess there's someone usually making some fake interface screen or something, but in this case, they just, yeah,
Well, it was
it's always,
cobbled
always
together
curious.
because the thing on the lower left was from K-Stars and the thing on the upper right was from K-Stars, but the thing on the upper left was not. I
Right.
actually found out it was a program called Images Plus because I did a whole bunch of searching online to see because I was curious. And I still haven't figured out what the bar of buttons on the top came from because I don't recognize them anywhere. Or the menus. The menus, I don't recognize them either. So I'm not
The key
sure.
is, I wonder if their software has the function to enhance.
Enhanced photo. Right, right.
Cool. Rob, thanks again. Great, quirky, funny little anecdote there. Anyone have any other final questions or comments for Rob? All right. Again, thanks, Rob. Bear with me here. So we will now switch from Rob to Robert. Dr. Werkman, take it away.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. Actually, Fred gave me the heads up today that this was going on. So, Rob,
The thanks goes to you, man. You saved us on this one, man.
I need to figure out, let me get my PowerPoint presentation up here, okay?
Yeah, take your time.
And then screen share. And how do I screen share? Oh, shoot, wait a second. I just screwed something up. Screen share. Here we go. Y'all see that now?
Looks good.
So I am a dyed-in-the-wool hardcore visual observer. I tried to do some imaging years ago and my patients would not allow it. I'm amazed what some of you guys have done, especially Rob Lancaster and others, and I've seen some of your images. But I believe in the real photons hitting the real retina, going to my brain. That's the pleasure I get. And as we all know, light pollution being what it is, I and others in Chesmont Astronomical Society, which I and Fred and several others here belong to, Greg, I think, always looking for new dark sites to observe from. And why I thought this place, which I first observed this year, Calhoun County Park in Grantsville, West Virginia, would be interesting to talk to you guys. It is turned out to be, or turning out to be, a mecca, small mecca for, with a small m, for imagers, because 2/3 of the people I ran into down there were imaging. But I'm going to run through this quickly. So I was there in the dark window in April of this year, twice. And then again, I went down in the fall, first week in November, in the dark window in November. And that time I went down with Josh Wright, Rob Cordavari, who you guys know, and another member of CAS named Bob Jorgensen. And we had a great time. But anyway, I had heard about Calhoun County Park, which is in Grantsville, West Virginia, which is basically almost in the geographic center of West Virginia, literally in the middle of nowhere, why it's dark, from some friends of mine. And we've been talking about going there for years. It turns out that for people from Western Pennsylvania, Western New York, Ohio, Kentucky, it's actually easier to get to this site than it is to get to Cherry Springs. It's much closer, much easier drive for them. Anyway, Calhoun County is the county, it's a county park. It's in a little town, a very little town called Grantsville. And years ago, the story I'm making up because I don't know all the details, but there was apparently some small liberal arts school, either in West Virginia or Western PA, a senior project in a college where these kids were being asked to come up with some way to stimulate rural economies and develop something real that people could actually implement. And somebody got the idea, well, if there are no natural resource, if there are no resources in a town, the people live there don't have skills, infrastructure may be lacking, what do they have? And these kids came up with the idea that, well, there's this place in West Virginia that what it's got is dark skies. And they actually developed a project that was funded by state monies and some federal monies. And they came up with a plan to convert this pretty nice county park in the middle of nowhere into a destination zone place for amateur astronomers, and they ran with it, and they've done it. And it is soon to get an IDA dark sky. I think it's gotten the approval. I don't think it's reached final voting yet, but I think it's going to soon be an IDA dark sky park, a new one. Where is this place? That's a good question. Here's a map. I live in Hershey, right near Harrisburg. You can see where Grantsville is, and for me, it's an easy. It really is an easy 5-hour drive to get there. And members of the Chesmont group we're into traveling astronomy. For me, it's nothing to drive 5 hours, observe all night, and drive 5 hours home. I will do that. I've done that many times. In fact, in September, or actually the week before, I was down in Grantsville with these guys. 5 days before, I was in Pettigrew State Park down in North Carolina, just inside of Kitty Hawk, with Jack Goodwin and Josh observing, and we did a one-nighter down there. But anyway, it's about a 5-hour drive. It's all interstate for me. So figure out how you would get to Harrisburg, or where you guys live. But 76 to Interstate 79 at Morgantown, and then you get off at a little town, I'm blanking on the name, that takes you on something called the Little Kanawha Parkway, and it runs along the Little Kanawha River to the town of Grantsville. And then you drop south of Grantsville, and you can see Calhoun County Park down at the bottom of this slide. And there is Grantsville. It's basically, there's a little hospital. There's nothing there. It's pretty much nothing. There is one street light. There's the bridge as you go south down to the park, which is just south of the town by about 4 miles. The main business there is Tudor's Biscuit World. Great place if you don't have heart disease. It's biscuits and gravy with everything else. But it turns out that West Virginia is West Virginia. That's why it's dark. The park actually is fairly safe to be in. The townspeople utilize it during the day, and they respect the astronomers. They don't bug us at night, unlike some of the experiences I've had at some other dark sites. Here's a nice aerial view that shows the park, and it's I forget how many acres this is. And basically where I've observed from is, if you can see my pointer, can you see my pointer? It is right here, and also way back down in here, and I'll show those in a second. So the park was designed to be for astronomers. There's actually power on the field, lots of it, and they're putting more in. This part of the park is actually a hilly area that is high enough on, it's like a little knoll. And when you are parked or stand right here, you can literally look 360 degrees all around, and you are above the treetops in every direction that you look. It's absolutely spectacular horizons. I've never experienced anything like it. There's a community barn that they actually is heated, red lighted, has bathrooms, has a commercial kitchen in it. You can stay in, and it's where you register. It's like $15 a night. So people stay there. Most people camp. Down in this area here, you see some roads. There's parking down here, and there's power down here. And out in this part of the park, they're putting in, and I'll show you a picture, new electrical lines. They're building cabins for rent. They're building a shower facility and bathroom facilities out here. They now exist in the community building, but now they're going to also be out here. So this is really turning into a really neat place. The first time I was there, I observed up on the on the knoll here, if you will. The last time I was there, I observed down here in this field here. We'll show some pictures of. Anyway, when you drive in, you don't really know what's in there, because there's just like this little hill, and you drive up the hill, and there's just a gravel road that goes up the hill. And when you get to the top of the hill, bingo, amazing. You're looking again 360 degrees all the way around. You're above the trees. It's absolutely spectacular. I have a 22-inch F36 Dob that I haul around in a trailer, which is my quote mobile observatory. So that's my obligatory selfie back in April. This is as astronomical twilight is progressing. You can see the community building down here. And the first time I was there, I was the only person there. It was spectacular. It was a little scary because I've never been there before, and you know, it's getting dark, and it's getting really dark, but it is absolutely spectacular. I took these photos with my iPhone, and I'll admit I'm not a good photographer, but again, these were taken in April, and I guess Orion. This is toward dawn. You can see Orion before astronomical dawn. You can see Orion on the left and Scorpius on the right, and literally stars to the horizon, which sometimes is even getting to be difficult to see at places like Cherry Springs, and clearly not in any of the urban, suburban sites that I observed from here near central PA. I think this is looking straight up at, yeah, that's Leo, looking straight up at Leo. There's Leo. It's just spectacular. And I think this is, what is this? Oh yeah, there's Sagittarius and Scorpius. Okay, so, and you can see, you can get all the way down to the bottom of the tail of Scorpius here, and you can get easily underneath the teapot. This was dawn the first time I was there, and again, by myself, and I just loved it. The next time I was down there, the next week I was down there, still the same dark window with Josh, and took a picture of the waxing crescent moon before dark. We goofed up on the times, and we thought we were going to be able to observe starting at about 9 o'clock. Turns out we didn't really start observing until about midnight. But anyway, it was still spectacular. There's our setup a week later, my scope and Josh's 25-inch f4.5 Obsession. There's a part of the park actually used to be a golf course, and this part looking toward the east is where the golf course is. Again, there's not much down there. There's a Family Dollar store. I love the place names: Hog Knob Road, Mail Pouch Tobacco signs. I mean, this is a bridge that was being built in April. It is now finished, and the little Kanawha Parkway coming into Grantsville is perfectly safe, easy 2-lane road. Just don't speed because it's 2-lane and it's very winding through all the hills. So all this construction work is done. Before you get to Calhoun County, you go through Gilmore County, which is known for a little state college, Glenville State College, and some neat little churches. And Glenville itself, there's nothing much there. There's a Pizza Hut there. There's a couple little restaurants you can eat there for breakfast and for dinner if you want. Again, it's a college town. The big employer, other than the college, is the Federal Correction Institute at Gilmore, federal jail in the middle of nowhere. That was the original. That's the bridge to the jail, so you can't escape. There's the new bridge. But I go up there and I take a picture, FCI Gilmore, and then somebody puts an American flag on the pole and puts God's country on it, and it truly is God's country. On the way out, coming home, through my bug-encrusted windshield, you can see the Glenville Inn, which we stayed at in the fall. I think I stayed there 3 nights. Josh stayed there 4. I think it was $79 a night. It is a beautiful little family-run motel, and it's literally about 20 minutes from the park. So I'm the type of person in a strange place. I pack everything up. So we would set up, observe, pack everything away in the morning, drive back to the motel, sleep, and then head back out. So we did that for 3 consecutive days. But I've since found out that people are leaving their scopes and imaging equipment set up, and there hasn't been any theft or damage or anything. But that's still to be determined. This is a brochure from the Glenville Inn, which is a nice little place. Right next door to it is believe it or not, in the middle of West Virginia, a Mexican restaurant. The one thing I want to say about observing, this is obviously not my photograph, but in the spring, I was looking at Abell 1367 in Leo, and literally through an eyepiece, it looked like that. I was picking out galaxies everywhere. I was just flabbergasted at the quality of the views I was getting down there. Here's an annotated image of another part of that Abell cluster. Again, just an amazing visual. When we were down there in the fall, in November, Rob and I, about 3:30 in the morning, we literally were looking up, and Rob goes, "Doc, look at the winter Milky Way." And for the first time I'd ever noticed the winter Milky Way arcing completely across the sky. It was just spectacular. This is the community barn. It's called the Herbert Smith Community Building. There's, like I say, there's you sleep in there. It's all red lighted. There are flush toilets, bathrooms, showers, and there's a kitchen where you can cook in, and that's used by the entire community. But also it's really set up for the astronomers. If you notice up here, there's a vehicle, and this is the road that goes back to where we observed that time. This guy up here, I forget his name. He was an observer. He had all his stuff set up there, and he would sleep in his car. So you kind of go in the back of the park there, and this is where we were this fall. There was a row of us here. We call it Dobb Row, and it's a nice field that they mow. I mean, it's like a golf course. Somebody takes care of this, and you can see this is kind of muddy here. They were getting ready to do some trenching and put in the power for the imagers. This cabin over here to the left, they had just built. They're building a couple more, and right next to it, they're going to build a bathroom shower facility for men and women. So it's just spectacular. That guy there setting up, that's Josh Wright. That's Josh. Down here is, whose scope is this? Oh, that's Bob Jorgensen's scope. That's me trying to get set up. And then there's another guy from near Pittsburgh in the back here. There's Bob Jorgensen from the Chesmont Club. And here's the fellow from Pittsburgh. So we're all a bunch of visual guys in a row waiting for the sun to set. And there's the crescent moon. Let's see. I took this just before the moon set. I think this was Venus. I can't remember, but it is dark, just incredibly dark. I think this is an artifact. It looks like a comet. I think that's an artifact. So anyway, check it out. Calhoun County Park in Grantsville, West Virginia. They have a website. There's also postings about it on cloudy nights. I think for me, it is a place where I'm looking to go in. I did it in January because we had lousy weather, but February and March, when the places locally have snow on the ground or it's too cold, or you just can't get there. And even though it's in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia, because it's in the middle of nowhere, but it has schools and children that need to get to schools, I talked to the locals, the roads are plowed. So even if it snows, the next day you're going to be able to get down there and get into this park because they keep it access open to it. So we're kind of looking at it as our southern place to go when we can't get somewhere local when we really want to go dark. But I think it's going to become better and better known. And for those of you that are really into imaging, this may be a place you want to check out. And everybody we met down there were nice. We're nice folk. Let me see how I get out of this. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing. How do I do that? Oh, stop share. There we go. And that's it.
Cool. Thank you very much, Robert. Any questions or comments for Robert?
That's great. I just wanted to verify they're fine with people parking on the field next to their equipment.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And that was my concern about setting up there and leaving things there. When we were there, it was my third time. Rob and Josh and Bob Jorgensen, it was their first time, and we had anxiety about leaving Big Dobb set up because people do use the park during the day. They take hikes there and stuff. But there have yet to been any incidents, and I think they've had some star parties, but they haven't been well publicized, and they've been very small. Not like Cherry Springs where you get 600 to 700 people. They've had like 35. The night we were there, the nights we were there in November, I would say there were maybe 15 people there, and it's wide open. It's an amazing place. I can't speak highly enough for the experience.
How was the dew situation?
Pardon?
How was the dew situation?
0. But I mean, that can change at any moment. I mean, it's still on the East Coast. The elevation is not like Spruce Knob. You're not at 4,600 feet. You're at, I don't know, maybe 1,200 feet or something. But surprisingly, you're far enough south. Number one, there's no wind, not like at Spruce Knob, and you don't get the lake effect clouds like you do at any time up at Cherry Springs. So that's what it's got cooking for it. I mean, it's well shielded. Up on that knoll on the front part of the park, the horizons are just spectacular, Never saw anything like that on the East Coast before, other than say up at Spruce Knob, or in terms of darkness, Spruce Knob or Pettigrew State Park in North Carolina, in the Pocassin Wildlife Preserve down there.
Yeah.
In terms of darkness.
If it becomes very popular, is there enough space there for
Oh, yeah.
a larger group?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this thing is acres. You could put 2,000 people there. It depends on what you're used to doing. Like when you go to Cherry Springs for the Black Forest or the Ash Star Party, you know you're going to be elbow to elbow with people, and you're going to put up with a lot of nonsense. You just accept that if you want to go there during those events. This place has none of that. You know, even we were lined up there, the five of us, well spaced out. And no one interfered with anybody else. I mean, we had a great time, and then we had a lot of the imagers came, they knew we were there, and they came walking down from all over the place because they wanted to look through the scopes. So we allowed them for a short time before we chased them away. But yeah, it's a really cool place. I really was hoping to get there in January, but the weather didn't cooperate.
How far away is it from the quiet zone? Will your cell phone work, or?
Oh, that's a good question. Cell phone coverage was outstanding. It is nowhere near the radio free zone. It's probably well on the exterior of that. I'd have to go back and look. You can look on a map. I mean, the radio free zone is centered around Centerville. So Centerville's about 60 miles east of there or more, or southeast of there. So yeah, excellent cell phone coverage. In fact, the first night I was down there, I was by myself. I got a little scared. You want to talk to somebody because you don't feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. So I actually called a buddy of mine, Carl Krasley, who some of you know, and I was saying, Carl, you can't believe this place, because Carl had first introduced me to Spruce Knob, observing down there, and we used to make many trips down there in years past. I said, Carl, you can't believe this place. And then he's telling me things I should look at. So I'm on my cell phone in the dark, and he's telling me, look at NGC, blah, 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 and look at blah, blah, blah. And I'm saying, okay, we're looking at it now. It's great, and it really was. So yeah, so there's good cell phone. If you're set up in the front part of the park, you can get to that community building for bathrooms and stuff. But I think now that they're going to build a shower and bathroom facility closer to that back field, it makes it very convenient to use. And there is a board that runs it. I know a couple of guys that are on. I met them. They're very friendly. They understand what they need to do, so hopefully this will be a good new place for people.
How far is the inn from the field?
Come again?
How far is the inn from the field?
I said about 20 minutes, Glenville's about 20 minutes from Grantville along the Kanawha Parkway, Kanawha Parkway. But it's a very easy drive, So we didn't find it. There's nothing else closer, unfortunately. The next closest motel is about 60 miles from there, north and south of there. Most of the folks we met there come from either West Virginia or Southern Ohio, like guys from Cleveland, from Toledo, a lot of guys from the Pittsburgh area and girls from the Pittsburgh area are coming down there. And they've been using it for about 5 years now. I think the park's been in existence for about 5 years.
And it's biscuits and pizza is pretty much the culinary choices out there.
Fred, you might not. Okay, Fred, I ate at Pizza Hut. There is a Pizza Hut in Glenville, and I had pepperoni pizza and an indigestion that kept me up the night so I could observe. Oh, and there is a McDonald's. There's a pizza in Glenville. There's a Pizza Hut. There's a McDonald's. In Grantsville, there's the Tudor's Biscuit World, which Fred, you and I, we can't go in there, not with our medical problems. It is literally a heart attack on a biscuit. There are a couple gas stations, so you can get gas. There are a couple convenience stores. Oh, and there's a Subway in Glenville. There's a Subway if you want to patronize Subway. So all the basic things you need to live for a couple days you can get down there. It's not luxurious.
Does the inn have a restaurant or breakfast there or anything?
No, there is a breakfast area there. I never eat at those places, but there's the Mexican place next door. I would just basically, on the way home in the morning, I'd stop off at McDonald's and get a sausage biscuit and some orange juice and then go to bed because I wasn't that hungry, but just to eat something. So, little planning, Fred, even you might be able to survive there.
It's good to know that.
Yep.
Good tips.
Yeah, I know food's important to you, Fred.
It is.
You can always bring your own.
Well, Fred does that too.
Doesn't last forever.
How long are you going to be there for, Fred? You can bring a week's worth of food.
Actually, I met a guy that they spent a whole week down there in the community center. There's people they hang out there the whole time. In fact, the third time we were down there, some guy, they had a party or a picnic earlier in the day, and some guy brought over freshly made barbecue and gave us all samples of barbecue.
Here you go.
In the dark. He's carrying these plates of food. And go, who the hell's this guy bringing us food in the middle? Didn't even know the guy. He's here's some barbecue. We had leftover. You want some of this? So it's very friendly. West Virginia's friendly.
That was like a DIS road trip.
Right.
That reminds me of the Stargaze when Jeff brought barbecue.
Brought it. I would cook it cook it at the place.
And he's the barbecue guy there. So.
Yeah, I miss doing that.
Robert, the building there that you said has a kitchen and showers and all, how many people can actually stay there? Or is there a dormitory?
I actually, even though I've been there 3 times, I've only been in the bathrooms there on the first floor. So I can't tell you much about the interior. All I know is there's it's 2 floors, and on the upper area, it's kind of like an open area where you just throw a mattress down, or an air mattress or something, and put your sleeping bag on. I mean, it's Spartan, but I didn't see anything that was unclean or unhealthy there, But again, I prefer, if I can, in a place like that, I'll find a local motel to stay in, because I'm a spoiled city boy. Anything else?
Cool.
Okay,
Any other
great.
questions or comments?
That was great. Thanks for filling us in.
Yeah. Hey, Robert, are you tied in with our groups.io?
No, I'm not. I need to.
I was wondering, maybe next time if you're going down, one of the things we'll use is, shoot a note to the groups.io, and you never know, you might get some friends to join you.
Yep. I think that's great, because I think, like I say, a lot of imagers down there. They seem very knowledgeable, and one of our concerns was being set up in that back field was literally from there at night. You'd want to drive to the community center. You wouldn't want to hike. It's about 400 yards. And if you needed a toilet facility, that's a long way to walk in a hurry. And so there was that guy along the road that his car sit there. We had 2 scopes set up, and we didn't want to be driving by him at night with our lights to get out there. So I think it's going to be a lot nicer when there's the bathroom facility, shower facility right on that back field. Again, I don't hope it turns into something like Cherry Springs, where you have sometimes 300-400 idiots trying to do whatever. But I think because of its remoteness, I don't ever see this being a very crowded space. I just don't see that.
What's the local wildlife? Is there any bears wandering onto the field like Cherry Springs gets once in a while?
There were none there. That we heard coyotes one night. A lot of birds, weird owls, coyotes. But it's so well. In terms of, it looks like basically like a big golf course. That unless, I think, if you're stupid with food and stuff where they can smell it and come get it, like we ran into one time down in Pettigrew, Fred. You remember that, where we were
I do. That's why I ask.
By a 400-pound black bear in twilight. And that's a story we can't talk about it because we did something illegal down there. We didn't kill the bear, but we did do something illegal to protect ourselves. I didn't feel unsafe about that, but I have bear mace, and the idea is, you spray yourself with the bear mace so that the bear eats you, and you're pretty tasty, and it goes quickly. That's a joke, Fred.
Good point.
That's a joke.
Cool. Yeah, Robert, thanks again. And per your email, did you have something you wanted to say about Okie-Tex?
Well, no, I have some pictures from Okie-Tex. I don't think it's
okay. No problem. Just wanted to.
I don't know who's ever been there. But I will just say that I was there for the first time in my life in October, dark window, I went with a guy from Jersey, Dan Pontone, some of you know. We drove out there. It's about, from Central PA, it's 1,600 miles each way. It's about 400 miles shorter than TSP. And it is the darkest place I've ever been in outside of the outback of Australia. Okie-Tex truly is everything they say it is in terms of darkness, in terms of the quality of the observing. And if you've never been there, and it's a visual kind of place. It's it's probably half visual, half imagery. But it was a great experience, but it's a long way to drive.
Cool. Again, Robert, thanks a ton.
You're welcome.
Really appreciate the last minute offer to fill in our gap here, and hopefully you'll meet some people out there in West Virginia.
I'll get in touch with you and find out about that stuff. And I also was excited to hear about your book club. Fred sent me an email about that yesterday or the other day, and I didn't know this existed. And one of the things I was going to ask, I don't know, has anybody talked or done one of Davis Sobel's books? Galileo's
Actually, I think
Daughter?
they didn't you guys just do one of those?
Because the reason I say that is I know I spent a week with Davis Sobel up in Maine, and I have her email address, and I think she'd be more than happy to talk about one of her astronomy related texts.
We read Galileo's Daughter by Davis Sobel, and it was very, very popular. And we read Longitude.
Okay. Right.
And I believe that was Sobel as well wrote that.
That's right.
And but there is a book about, I think, Copernicus, a bio of Copernicus that we'd like to read.
The better one is actually about the folks at the Harvard Observatory and the glass plates.
We read that.
Oh, you did that one? Okay, well.
Yeah, we did that.
Mary, has she joined you for any of your book discussions?
She has not joined us, so that opportunity would be fabulous.
She gave an, I don't want to belabor, but she gave her, she graduated from the Bronx School of Science in New York City in high school, and she was friends with another fellow from New York. They went to high school together, and who's also an amateur astronomer. She's not, but she has this interest in women in science. You notice there's kind of a flavor to her books often. And she gave a very fascinating kind of background story to Galileo's Daughter, and about a lot of things about monasticism in the Middle Ages and contemporary monasticism, and how she spent some time at a place somewhere out west with the nuns, even though she's of the Jewish faith. Just very interesting, her perspective on women in science and women in society from the Middle Ages to current. And that comes through, I think, in all of her books. So yeah, I think, maybe could cajole her to give a talk. She's very entertaining, extraordinarily knowledgeable, and just polished.
That would be wonderful. We'd love that. We've got openings on the calendar,
well,
and to have her would be an honor. If we could find a book that we haven't read, absolutely, let's do it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
Cool. All right. And Robert, if you want to reach out, obviously you've got my contact. We'll get you tied in with the club a little better and make things happen.
All right. I will. Thanks.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Next up, I'm going to preface with a little bit of an introduction here. Lou, you are up next. And just for Lou is one of our interesting members. He is one of our new-ish members that actually he's from a little bit further north, but is one of the members that we've picked up during this quarantine. Our virtual Zoom-based gathering has enabled Lou to join us. He's very active in some other clubs up north, but has been very active with our club over Zoom and is an avid astrophotographer as well. So a little introduction, Lou. I don't think that anyone in the club has actually met Lou in person. We look forward to the time that we will be able to do so. But Lou, take it away, all yours. And again, thank you for offering a quick talk here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I got to make it down there to Mount Cuba. It's not terribly far away. It's just that, you guys hold your meeting at 7 o'clock and I got to drive through rush hour on 476. So like an hour and a half while I'm hungry in traffic. You don't want to be there when I get there. Anyway, I have two things I wanted to share. I share these with the Astrophotography Special Interest Group over the weekend. So you guys are going to get a repeat of my presentation. It's not that it was anything big, but I was imaging the jellyfish nebula, IC 443, last week. And Monday night, I was doing a mosaic, and I noticed as I was stacking my frames, there was a couple short streaks. Normally I would write that off as a satellite trail or a cosmic ray, but one of them was just way too small. So when I delved into the data and I blinked through it, I noticed a little asteroid. So I was able to plate solve and identify it. Let me share my screen. I'll show you guys. Can you see my desktop?
Yes.
All right, so here's the little guy. It's if you can see it right there. So this is over the span of about 2 hours. The magnitude is 17.1 on this object. Each image was 300 seconds. There's 22 of them. So this is over the span of 2 hours. But anyway, it looked like a streak. And there was another streak that I noticed, and I thought it was a cosmic ray. And I have that queued up here. Now, if you guys can see this on the upper left, coming through here, I'll stop it when it gets there. Oops. So I thought maybe that was a cosmic ray. But if we look carefully at it, I gotta find it again. You notice there's like the brightness is not consistent. There's little bright areas and they get dim. Then when we process it and look for color, can you see all my screen changes here? Okay, so you notice there's definitely color changes there. So it looks like this could have been a small little meteor that entered the atmosphere. Maybe something exploded right here. It's a little bit brighter, gold, and then changed color to something else. But anyway, two little things that I caught just by chance. And if we didn't lose our speaker today, I wouldn't bore people with you guys in sharing these things. But there's one more thing that's actually kind of interesting that I wanted to share. When the James Webb Telescope first took off, it was really close to Earth. I wanted to be able to take a picture of it with my telescope and capture the topocentric parallax. Once it got past the moon, I thought that wasn't visible. So right now you can see it's all the way out here. It's almost at its final destination around L2. But I'll give you guys a little video here of the topocentric parallax. Now this was not done by me, and I guess we're on YouTube, but the credit will be on the video here. So you can see how the telescope appears to curve. Now it's going to curve off to the left. Now it'll go straight, and then it'll appear to curve off to the right. And that's because it's so close to the Earth with respect to the stars that the curvature of the Earth is distorting this position, or apparently distorting. Anyway, so my buddy from Astronomers Inc., Dennis Conti, provided me with a plot of the ephemeris data from the JWST. And you can see the S curve here gets wider and wider as the telescope is slowing down. The space between the S curve is getting wider, is not moving as far. And not only that, the angle of the telescope's not, it's going in a straight line, but it's not going directly toward L2. It's kind of curved off to the right. And at the last minute, NASA will just run a burn on it and send it into a corkscrew. And eventually, it'll reach the equilibrium at L2 and it'll stop there. I just can't believe the precision engineering involved in that. Anyway, my mind is blown. I love this kind of stuff. But you can see on this graph that when the telescope crosses the meridian, it's always, you can accurately measure its position. And that's when if you really want to know where it is, you have to measure it then, because the topocentric parallax will give you wrong information. And this will vary depending on where you are on the planet. So we can actually calculate the position if we have somebody else, let's say in Florida or in California or somewhere else on the planet. We can get more information about that. So if you have any friends somewhere else, we'll try to take simultaneous observations and see if we can track its position. The one more thing I wanted to mention about this asteroid, my buddy Dennis Conti, who provided the graph there for the topocentric parallax, also helped me plate solve this so we can positively identify this asteroid. So this is a main belt asteroid. We plate solved the area. This is my field of my sensor. This is Propus, the bright star that you see. Oops, that you see here. If I can start playing, let me. I'm arguing with the computer. Give me 1 second here. There we go. So actually, yeah, you know what? I moved the bright star out of the field, so we can look at here. It's this star right here. So you can see I was actually rather zoomed in when I showed you that asteroid. It's really, really in there. I mean, that's it right there. You probably can't even see it. So we're really zoomed in. It traveled only about 3 arc seconds. So here's the plate solve. And then we put in, using the Fitz header of the image, what time everything happened and our coordinates. And here's all the possible satellites. And this is the one that it matched up perfectly with right here. So I didn't realize there was this many objects at that particular time so close, but I'm surprised why I only saw this one. Anyway, that's what I got. Any questions?
What's the name of that asteroid again?
Good luck. You had to. It's a really confusing name to pronounce. Kentaro Hirata. That's it. It's a Japanese name. Kentaro Hirata. Sounds Japanese. But that's what I got. Any questions?
It's all Greek to me, Lou.
Oh well. It's Greek to me.
Cool.
Lou,
thanks a
how
lot.
often have the Starlink satellites interfered with your work?
Usually the rejection algorithms can successfully eliminate them. In fact, I would have never seen this asteroid. The rejection algorithm I used successfully got rid of it. The problem was there was a little bit of a gradient in the data. So I went back and blinked through the raw data. And when I blinked through the raw data, that's when I found the little satellite moving. And it was only by chance, because you saw how dim that was. I just happened to be looking in the right place. I'm sure there's a zillion other of these tiny little satellites in all my other data. I just shared this because I stumbled across it and we needed some more content. And it was actually pretty cool. It was even cooler to identify that it was not going to hit us. It was cooler not to see topocentric parallax, because if we observe that, it'd be pretty scary. Yeah, so I don't know, next time any of you imagers, if you get bored, when you're stacking your data, look at the rejection frames. You might find a little gem like this.
Cool. Any other questions or comments for Lou?
So you're saying you looked at stuff that was rejected and found that.
Yeah.
So where does the rejected stuff go? Where are you looking?
So what happened with the software that I use to stack, and most of the astronomy stacking software, to maximize the signal, you want to use a long enough exposure as possible without adding noise. So we add, let's say, I would take several 5-minute exposures and combine them together. And that's also a way to eliminate the error, because now we can when we're combining them together, we can create a range of where the data lies, standard deviation. And we can keep refining how tight we want to keep that range, depending on how big the stack is. The more data we have, the tighter we can refine, the better the quality of the data, the tighter we can refine the parameters. So I use an algorithm called Windsorized sigma clipping when I have a lot of data, and that does a really good job at removing the outliers. So as the data gets rejected, it rejects the high end, it rejects the low end. So it puts, the software that I use saves those files, and you can look at it. Yeah, I don't think Deep Sky Stacker saves the rejection frames. So if you can look at them, somebody correct me. But most of the other software, there's either an option to look at the frames, or if you can look at them. Do you do any imaging?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, basically this is just it's errors in the frame, and in this case, it was an error that turned out to be useful data.
Okay. I didn't know it saved the error data anywhere.
That's just because I told it to.
Okay.
And it's not that particular. So a lot of times I'll just close out of that. But I also specifically went to the data because I wanted to. One of the reasons why you want to keep the data, if there's a problem when you're done stacking, you could pour through the data manually. But if you take a quick look at the rejection frames, you can see that it rejects too much, not enough. Because what happens sometimes is with the Starlink satellites, if there's clouds and there's a gradient, the light that the satellite might leave, the trail, might match a cloud. So it's really hard for the algorithm to separate those apart, and sometimes it may not eliminate the entire satellite trail. And initially, that's what I thought was going on.
Okay.
But it quickly became apparent that that wasn't the case.
So does anyone else that does the astrophotography, do you look at your rejected data from time to time, or no?
Sure.
Bill does.
Sure. I've picked up a few asteroids. I didn't go to the trouble to identify them, but they show up. The main thing about the rejection is that when you take a lot of images, cosmic rays, airplane trails, the one-time occurrences that show up in only one image are easily rejected because they don't show up in all the other images. So the software can see that that's a unique occurrence and drop it out of the result. Mostly it's cosmic rays.
Okay. Nice.
Any other questions or comments? Again, Lou, thanks again. Cool, interesting stuff. All the fun little quirks of astronomy that people will get into. So, all right. Does anyone else have? And that there was one other topic I wanted to hit that I was just going to say a few words. But before I do that, is there anything else that anybody would like to share? Again, it could just be a little story, an anecdote, a joke, or a photo, or anything else that you'd like to share. Again, feel free to unmute yourself and speak up.
Jeff, I have a couple of photos I could show.
Fantastic.
They've I think been in the focus, but okay.
It'd be good to show them and have your commentary. So
okay. So let me. Okay, you should be looking at the Heart of the Heart Nebula. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is only one part of a very large nebula, and one of the things I really enjoyed about this was the features in the dust lanes and let's see. So we can kind of zoom in on that part. Take a look. A lot of neat stuff going on there. And I think this was just in the most recent focus.
It looks incredibly three-dimensional.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Wait till you see the next one.
It looks like other examples of the pillars of creation.
Yeah, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of similarity there. Let's see, I'm going to skip over that part. Okay, this was from a little bit further back. And so this is M101. And the part I found really neat about this was all the little dust lanes running through the individual spirals. But also, this big arm actually stretches very, very far away from the galaxy compared to the arm on the other side. But if you follow it around, let's see if we can zoom in on that part. If you follow it around, it actually comes back. So it's one of those mysteries how that happens. There are 2 or 3 galaxies in the vicinity. Here's one, a very strange looking galaxy. I forget the exact designation of that, but there are a couple of galaxies like that that are supposed to be distorting M101. Okay, let me see. So that's all I really have.
Cool.
Oh, wait a minute. What about the other picture, Bill?
Well, hang on a second. Let me see
I
if
don't
I
want
can-
to tell you.
You're
All
talking
right.
about M8?
Yes.
Yeah, hang on. Well,
That one was great. You want to talk about 3D?
okay. Let's go do the M8 one. Okay. Number 2.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Okay, that's all right. So this is a narrowband version of M8. Let's see. Okay, so let's zoom in on this a little bit. And one of the usually M8 looks kind of flat in regular RGB. In this case, it looks has a more of a 3-dimensional time tunnel kind of look to it, which I like. But it's really a work in progress. I'm still working on stars around the outside edge.
I think this is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful. It's the wormhole in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah. All right. So that's it. Any questions? We got it. No.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. Yep.
Again, last call. If anybody else has anything they would like to share, again, unmute yourself, speak up. Otherwise, I will go ahead and close out the meeting with some just, I call maybe news from the board. So, during the quarantine, board's been doing a lot of stuff, progressing our equipment situation, both while we were virtual and then actually getting some physical work done for the couple of months that we were getting together again. Just a quick update on the couple of equipment fronts. And this is just a general information for maybe some newer members. So the DAS Hull maintains the Salwin Observatory, which currently houses our historic 12.5-inch telescope that was built by our founding club members back in the 60s. It also houses a 17.5-inch Dobsonian telescope. And it houses our, somewhat recently acquired 12-inch reflecting telescope on a modern go-to mount. So all of that is in the Salwin. And then for anyone that's been aware of the PODS project, there are the 2 smaller observatories adjacent to the Salwin. One of them is now equipped with a 5-inch, and please anyone correct me if I screw this up, but it's a 5-inch apochromatic refractor on a modern go-to mount. And the second pod is soon to house, the board just voted to put it in there, a telescope that a couple of club members have been working for months, if not actually a couple of years, to get working fully. But we had donated a 10-inch LX200 Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope. That's fork mounted, again, go-to, and that will be in the second dome. And so, you know, through the various telescopes that we are that are permanently mounted, we have reflectors, refractors, and Schmidt-Cassegrain. So kind of a little bit of everything. One of the neat features of the LX200, which I'm personally very excited to try out, is it has the unique combination of software and hardware that allows it to actually track satellites. And actually, the neatest satellite, in my opinion, to track, which I've never done, but if you track the International Space Station, you actually can see features. The analogy that I hear most people say is it looks like a TIE fighter from Star Wars, because you can see some of the panels on the side. So you actually don't just see a speck zooming through the sky, you actually see, you know, some features, some geometry to it. So I look forward to doing that. So that's the club, let's call it permanently mounted gear.
Yeah, if you want, I got pictures of the, I have pictures of the exterior of the Solomon and the additions, if you like. If you want to talk over them, you can do
Yeah,
that.
if you want to flash photos, Fred, while I'm talking, that'd be great.
Can I share screen?
Go for it.
Yeah, you can keep talking.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what you end up. So for the loaner telescopes, I'll probably miss some, but we have 3 Dobsonian telescopes, 2 that are 6 inches, 1 that's 8 inch. We might soon have a 10-inch Dob. We had a 10-inch Dob donated to the club, but we need to fix it up before it's ready to be loaned. We also have a 5-inch achrochromatic refractor that is available for loan. We have a 8-inch Schmidt-Cassegrain that's available for loan. That is not go-to. But we also have a small go-to telescope, which is a ETX90, if I'm not mistaken. The club also, we would call it advanced loaner gear. It's, you know, we've got 3 very nice higher end pair of binoculars that were donated by Mount Cuba. We have a solar telescope for purpose telescope for viewing the sun. And then just recently acquired, this is somewhere in between gear for our permanently housed telescopes as well as loaner, is we purchased let's call it an arsenal of beginner astrophotography gear. So we just purchased 3 astrophotography cameras. One is the DSLR that can be basically standalone, stuck on the back of a telescope and take pictures. The other 2 are really specific astrophotography cameras that need to be interfaced with the computer, and a bunch of other accessories, spotting scopes and off-axis guiders and all kinds of other stuff to, again, aid in beginning astrophotography. So you'll be hearing more about that as we start. This is all very, very new stuff as we start putting it together. But we are very close to having the ability with a couple of our different telescopes to have a full astrophotography setup to do work similar to what, you know, some of the members have shared tonight, as well as some of these cameras and other guiders and stuff like that are, you know, able to be borrowed. Again, we're not quite there yet, but we will be very soon. So I like to share that information because it's the club members' dues that allows us to buy this equipment. And so it's good for people to know what we've got and the different projects we're working on. The final note on those LX200s, again, the vote was just taken. We actually had 2 LX200s donated to us. One was an 8-inch and one was a 10-inch. And again, a couple of members spent a lot of time getting both of them basically fully mechanically and electrically operational. So they are effectively perfectly functional at this point. Due to the larger aperture, we decided to house the 10-inch in one of the pods, but the board decided we really didn't have a use for the 8-inch. So the 8-inch LX200 will actually be going up for sale. We need to do a little bit of research first to figure out what its value might be, but like with most of our gear, we obviously would like to offer that up to club members first. So if anyone might be interested in purchasing an 8-inch LX200, reach out to one of the board members. And as I said, in parallel, we're going to be doing some research to figure out, what might be a fair price for it. So I know that was a mouthful and a lot to take in, but again, certainly more information about our club gear, our loaner gear, and all the other stuff will be coming as we get it dialed in.
Oh, and something to add to that, Jeff, is that as we continue to work on this project, we actually have already upgraded the lock on the Samhain Observatory.
Yes.
And we will be making a plan for training some people on how to use some of this gear and setting it up for loan. We have to get those cameras that we just got into some nice boxes, make a plan for loaning that out just like the Dobbs. But that's going to take a little bit of effort on our part this, winter and spring to get all that kitted out and figured out how that would go out to people. And we're going to ultimately have like some little classes on how to use the Samhain, and we'll give people access to the Samhain and to Mount Cuba. And we have to send a list of the names once we have those classes to Mount Cuba for approval to get gate access. But we'll give you all the details about the procedures and how this stuff will work when you sign up for the class.
Cool. Thanks for that add-on, Rob.
Sure.
Well, with that, and again, unless anyone has anything else that they'd like to share, we're sneaking up on 10 o'clock. But unless anybody, again, please feel free to interject and interrupt if you've got a quick little anecdote or something that you'd like to share. But otherwise,
I got one.
Oh, go for it.
So why did the astronomer cross the road?
Uh-oh.
Oh, wow, Jesus.
To get to the dark side.
Nice. Nice. So again, I would like to give a...
What was the punchline?
Get to the dark side.
Don't worry about it.
I would just like to give another big thanks to everybody that shared something tonight. First time experience for me as the programming chair to have a speaker, bail out with less than 24 hours notice. Again, no slight to him. Work certainly comes first, but it was an interesting experience. And again, really big thanks to everyone, because I think we collectively managed to pull together a pretty cool meeting in less than 24 hours. So, super
Well,
big
thanks
thanks
to
to
you,
everyone that
Jeff,
shared.
Thank you, Jeff, for coordinating it.
Yeah. It's always interesting. It was great to have a good kind of varied number of topics tonight, from some astrophotography to Robert Werkman and his dark sky visual observing to, our now Hollywood famous Rob Lancaster. So again, just a final reminder, we will continue to gather every Tuesday via Zoom. We are not going to be holding official astronomy workshops at Mount Cuba for a little while now, until COVID has calmed down a bit. But Mount Cuba is not closed. So again, if people would like to work on projects at Mount Cuba, again, reach out to, again, a board member, or especially Dave Grosky. Again, no issue with, again, Mount Cuba is not closed, but officially we will be holding our astronomy workshops over Zoom. And we're just going to be kind of playing it week by week. I don't want to make any guesses as to what we will do for our February meeting. But we'll certainly be in touch with everybody either through the official DAS email list or the groups.io. And actually, that reminds me, maybe final plug, Treblecock. It sounds like we are at a point now where membership is technically lapsed. I think we still have a few stragglers, right, Bob?
Yeah, we have 93, our membership is about 119, but we have 93 people that have renewed for 2022. I sent out a reminder yesterday to those who haven't renewed yet. If you got an email from me, we encourage you to rejoin. Like I say, we hope we're providing services to the membership. And so we don't actually cut everybody off the official roster till like the end of February, but so you got a little bit of time. But if you get your dues in, I won't have to keep sending emails. And then appreciate all the guys that have signed up and paid their dues already. It's just what, again, it's real important to keep the club going with that.
Awesome. All right, everybody, have yourself a lovely night, and we'll see you next time we get together.
Have a good month.
So, yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.